I'd appreciate it if y'all ain't laugh.
Wally, Lorax, Wally, Lorax.
Come on now.
Comparison.
This is me and I'm comparing the films Wally and the Lorax.
Trash.
In the month of May. Please give us a name. And watch Power Up Kiki Bradley. Phineas. Power K new episode comes out June 9th in the auditorium, by the way.
Before we start off, I would like to say Lorax is better than Wally.
You gonna get your feelings hurt.
The animated films Lorax and Wally are based on environmental science. Can you stop?
Whip the, just take the, oh look. It's not stopping. I'm gonna cut it out. Just leave it playing.
Both have similarities where you had those who hid the truth about the real world. Not only that, it shows how people treated the earth and didn't care not once how the environment was impacted, as long as they got what they wanted out of it. As of today, us human beings treat our earth as if it's nothing but doesn't pay attention to the damage it's doing to us. In today's society, we can prevent these issues in many ways to help the environment. Of course, you know the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Even though some of us may not want to do it because it's lazy, lousy, and the worst thing that could ever be, community service can also help as well by picking up the little trash around the city that we see. During this video, we will be comparing the Lorax and Wally and all the environmental issues they address, but don't listen to Reek's opinion. I have facts
Oh,
on how much of a better film it was. But let my African brother take it away.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna cut that out or not yet.
As my sister just said, 2012's The Lorax and 2008's Wally are vastly similar as they're both modern day family joints about the environment. They do their damnedest to tell enduring stories that constantly have us on the edge of our seats with incredibly likable characters and strong, deeply thought out environmental undertones that will make you consider standing up and changing your lifestyle for the better. Well, I mean, Wally does that. The Lorax is the worst thing in the history of anything ever. Yeah, I mean, the Lorax is garbage, but it's a special kind of garbage. The kind that infuriates me to no end and annoys me with the ignorance of people defending it as it's just a kids movie. Yeah, well, you know what happens when you just throw stuff at kids with characters they're supposed to idolize? You get kids that think Ozzy and Drix are running around their bodies and Little Richard's gonna sing every time they board a school bus. And I think I find it the most offensive because The Lorax is not only just a bad movie, but a bad introduction to kids for environmental issues. However, Wally operates as a complete opposite. It tells a deep story with solid characters and an open-ended ending that provokes various critiques on our society. And you know, it's sad that the movie about the Three Stooges influenced E.T.-ish helping robot that listens to the same damn Hello Dolly track on repeat.
On your Sunday clothes.
Yeah, okay, it's Monday. Is much deeper than the movie based on the book by the Oxford graduate who dropped World War II cartoons with Chuck Jones. Okay, I'll stop showing off. But what exactly does the Lorax do wrong? Well, allow me to explain that.
How bad can I be?
First is the story. The Lorax story makes no sense. And I know that's a lot to say when you're talking about the animation studio that makes Twinkie movies for a living, but the way they executed and set up the plot is as horrendous as it is disrespectful. The characters live in a town where every tree is plastic and there's no clean air, so they have to purchase air from this big business owner who also seems to act like the mayor. There are people who bottle the air, deliver it, anything you could think of. When Taylor Swift kid wants trees, Zac Efron kid driven by his, I'm not gonna say penis, he goes out and tries to get her one. When he meets the once-ler in a land where it's deserted, he tells Troy the story about how he's responsible for cutting down the trees, yada yada yada. My main problem with the story is that it has absolutely no stakes. Okay, they don't have trees. Okay, so what? They seem to be living fine without them anyway. The whole air business looks like it's growing their economy greatly. And it's bright as hell outside all the time. Doesn't look like the planet's doing any worse due to lack of precipitation. Speaking of which, just adding trees who give free air would make everyone who works at the companies that produce the air lose their jobs. The economy will take a hard crash and they'll be stuck like America after the introduction of credit.
What do you want? I should shut down my factory? Fire 100,000 workers? Is that good economics? Is that sound for the country?
I see your point, but I wouldn't know the answer.
And yeah, okay, but where exactly does the air come from? Ain't no trees, right? So how exactly do you sell something that's absolutely extinct in this universe?
You gonna tell me it's algae and the oceans, bio majors? You think that kind of science logic exists in a world with only one town and no trees?
And be real with me, no way in hell that this town is the only town on the planet. What world is this where there's no communication with people who live in other towns, other cities, other countries that maybe have trees and can vouch for their existence like Shake It Off over here can? And the climax. They go through this insane wild goose chase to get the last tree seed into the soil and... Wait, let's talk about WALL-E. Because WALL-E's climax is rather similar, as they're trying to get the last existing plant in the soil. WALL-E works because we're already given all this stuff about how the humans live with trees, plantation, and such out of the picture, but the real tension of the scene comes from the fact that WALL-E is dying, and the plant, while a priority, is almost an afterthought. And that's not saying making the environmental issue as the main conflict that fuels the climax is a bad thing, but it's all about execution. While I can't admit that this scene is a lot of fun, it ends off playing out like a Saturday morning cartoon. Bad Blood stops the whole damn movie to explain precipitation, and it's just... why? Do you seriously think that your audience is incompetent enough to not know that trees good, plastic bad? And you know, I don't even think I'd consider this to be that big of an issue if the whole plot didn't revolve around the environmental message. It's one thing to be something completely about the environment, and it's another thing to get the point that you're trying to make completely wrong. The original Lorax book and the short that tied in with it in 1972 are not only stories about the environment, but consumerism and the impact on how big businesses have on how we operate as a whole. The 2012 Lorax looks like it wants to be about consumerism and capitalism, but when your movie has over 90 sponsorships, contradictory sponsorships surrounding it, what big business are you fighting? Huh? And the story just takes so long to get into the environmental conflict that you almost forget what they're trying to tell you in the first place.
When are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
They missed the open opportunity to make a big climactic children's film with undertones of capitalism, deforestation, and history repeating itself with the once leering Mr. O'Hare just so they can have the easy way out. Meanwhile, WALL-E balances corporate greed, deforestation, resource depletion, waste management, population control, and a story about two calculators that fly around in space for 90 minutes and still manages to be Time Magazine's greatest film of the new decade. That is why I have such a big grudge with the Lorax, because it could be so much more, but it ended up doing what it spent 90 minutes preaching us not to do. Corporate pandering. And they didn't even go to the fireworks factory.